You went to bed last night, turned off the light, and thought you were finally letting your body rest. But while you slept in the silence of your home, something incredibly dangerous was happening quietly inside you. Many Americans wake up early, brew their morning coffee, and turn on the news without realizing they almost didn't wake up today. What is destroying hearts across the country isn't just old age, it's habits that seem completely harmless. You could be cultivating a literal poison in your veins without realizing it while you are fast asleep. Right now, this flawed routine is eroding your health and could cause your body to stop suddenly. I need you to understand the number one habit on this list as soon as possible. It is the most treacherous of all, and it is present in almost every single home. If you wake up tired, your heart is crying out for help and you need to listen. Don't let tonight's sleep be the last thing you ever do. Hello, I am Dr. Lucas Vidai. Today, we are going to talk about an invisible alarm clock that might be sabotaging your life. Have you ever wondered why your eyes snap open exactly at 3 o'clock in the morning when the rest of the house is still blanketed in silence? Many believe this is just a sign of getting older or a signal that the body has rested enough to start the day. But the truth that medicine shows us is far more unsettling than a simple habit of waking up early to start the coffee maker. When your sleep is systematically interrupted at this exact hour, your body isn't waking you up because you're fully rested. It is flashing a warning sign. There is a direct and dangerous connection between this lonely awakening and the health of your arteries that you can no longer afford to ignore. Imagine the routine of Mr. Anthony, a 8-year-old gentleman living in the hustle and bustle of New York City who found his peace in the dead of night. Every single day, without fail, the clock would strike 3:15 a.m., and he would already be on his feet, walking quietly through his kitchen. He took pride in this discipline. He thought it was the vigor of a man who worked hard his whole life and now had the time to watch the sunrise. Mr. Anthony felt no pain, had no shortness of breath. He just had this clockwork punctuality for losing his sleep in the middle of the night. He would sit at the table, listen to the early city traffic beginning to stir, and believe everything was under control with his health. What he didn't know was that every single one of those awakenings was his heart fighting against a silent internal pressure. This fragmented rest is not an isolated phenomenon, but a biological indicator that something in your cardiovascular system is deeply out of balance. When we wake up abruptly in the middle of the night, our sympathetic nervous system is activated in an abrupt and unnecessary way. This triggers a surge of hormones that is supposed to happen only at dawn, but instead occurs while the heart should still be in absolute rest. If this interruption happens night after night, the impact on the walls of your blood vessels begins to accumulate invisibly. What begins as simple insomnia can actually be the prelude to a hypertensive crisis or something much worse. Have you ever had that feeling where your body suddenly switches on and your sleep completely vanishes like magic? It is vital to understand that your heart never takes a vacation, and it relies on those hours of total darkness to perform basic, essential maintenance. Ignoring a 3 a.m. awakening is like ignoring a flashing red check engine light on your dashboard while driving down a deserted highway at night. Cardiovascular science warns that the risk of acute cardiac events increases drastically during these specific time windows when the body should be protected by deep sleep. Mr. Anthony thought he was just an early bird, but he was actually walking a thin line between health and total collapse. Your awakening is not a gift. It is the cry for help from a heart that is being overloaded ahead of time. What few people understand is that our body possesses an extremely strict internal clock, and at 3 a.m. this clock enters a critical transition zone. For medicine, this phenomenon of systematically waking up long before the sun rises has a name: advanced sleep phase disorder. It is not a conscious choice made by your mind, but a biological mismatch where your circadian rhythm is programmed to end its rest cycle far too early. It is as if the stopwatch of your life is running too fast, pushing you into wakefulness when your heart still needs the protection of deep sleep. The great villain behind this unwanted awakening is a drastic drop in the production of melatonin, the hormone that signals to every cell in your body that it is still nighttime. As we age, our pineal gland begins to manufacture less of this vital substance, and this scarcity acts like a broken light switch. Without enough melatonin to keep the sleep brake applied, your body interprets even the tiniest internal fluctuation as a cue to wake up completely. This is why you open your eyes and, despite feeling a heavy exhaustion in your body, you cannot turn your mind off to go back to sleep. Mr. Anthony was the living embodiment of this silent hormonal conflict. He used to tell his wife that he didn't need medicine or alarms because his nature was strong and woke him up at 3:15 a.m. with plenty of energy. He saw this as a competitive advantage, a sign of vigor from a man who still had a lot of fuel left in the tank. But the scientific reality was cruel to Mr. Anthony's interpretation. His vigor was actually a profound hormonal deficiency. His body wasn't ready for the day. It simply lacked the chemical fuel required to stay turned off. Upon investigating his case, we realized that this lack of melatonin created an environment of early oxidative stress in his cardiovascular system every single morning. While he thought he was gaining time in his life by watching the daybreak, his heart was losing precious hours of cellular repair and blood pressure control. Melatonin does not just serve to help us sleep, it is one of the most potent antioxidants protecting the heart muscle during rest. In Mr. Anthony's case, the absence of this protective shield left his arteries exposed and vulnerable precisely during the hours when the body is most fragile. Have you ever felt that deep exhaustion that seems to come from inside your bones, even though you woke up early on your own? Write it down here in the comments if you also feel proud of sleeping little, because what I am about to tell you next about what happens to your blood at this hour will change your perception forever. The science is clear. Sleep fragmented by a lack of melatonin increases arterial stiffness and sets the stage for chronic inflammation. Mr. Anthony wasn't living more. He was accelerating the wear and tear of an engine that had no time to cool down. Understanding this cycle is the first step to preventing your biological clock from turning into a time bomb. But here is the twist no one tells you. Waking up at 3 a.m. isn't just a sleep problem, it's a hormonal ambush on your cardiovascular system. While you open your eyes and feel that strange restlessness, your body is being flooded by a premature spike of cortisol, the stress hormone. Studies from Harvard Health show that there is a danger zone between the end of REM sleep and the early hours of the morning where cortisol can rise sharply to try to prepare us for the day. The problem is that when this happens too early, this hormone acts like a gas pedal pressed all the way to the floor in a car with a freezing cold engine. The result is a sudden spike in heart rate and a skyrocketing blood pressure, creating the perfect storm for arrhythmias and fatal events. The elevated cortisol at this hour acts as an emergency switch that should be turned off. Instead of a smooth transition to waking up, your heart receives a shock of energy that overloads the already tired walls of the arteries. It is an invisible and silent phenomenon, but to your heart muscle, it feels like starting a marathon without any warm-up. If you have ever felt your heart racing right after waking up in the dark, know that it wasn't just a random fright. It was your biological system buckling under the weight of a stress that shouldn't be there. For Mr. Anthony, that overconfidence in his morning vigor caught up to him on an ordinary Tuesday. It was exactly 3:30 a.m., and as usual, he was sitting at his kitchen table waiting for his drip coffee to brew in the silence of the house. Suddenly, the room spun violently and his right hand lost all strength, letting his favorite coffee mug slip and shatter on the floor with a sharp crack. He tried to call out for his wife, but his words came out slurred and garbled, as if he had forgotten how to speak in a matter of seconds. Mr. Anthony was suffering a TIA, a transient ischemic attack, which is a clear sign that his brain was running out of oxygen due to a sudden hypertensive crisis. That moment of paralysis in the kitchen wasn't an accident. It was the culmination of months of being jolted awake by cortisol spikes without any protection. The blood of Mr. Anthony, driven by a pressure that reached alarming levels at that critical hour, encountered resistance in vessels that should have been completely relaxed by sleep. It was a final warning from his body, a temporary short circuit that almost turned into an irreversible stroke right there between the coffee machine and the silent television. He survived by sheer luck, but the image of that broken mug became a permanent symbol of the danger he had ignored every night. Have you ever felt a slight dizziness or a sudden weakness when getting out of bed in the middle of the night? Write down, "I feel this" below if this has ever happened to you, because what I am about to reveal about the number one habit further ahead is what differentiates someone who just wakes up early from someone who is putting their life at risk. Do not fool yourself into thinking your body is made of iron just because you can function on a few hours of rest. Biology does not forgive an excess of cortisol, and your heart is the first to pay the bill for that neglect. The case of Mr. Anthony is a warning for every American who thinks sleeping is a waste of time. The middle of the night can be the most dangerous moment of your life if you do not know how to tame your hormones. There is an even more silent culprit hiding in the darkness of your bedroom, something the American Heart Association classifies as one of the greatest hidden enemies of the modern heart. If you wake up at 3 a.m. with a heavy chest or a bone-dry mouth, you might be suffering from obstructive sleep apnea. This isn't just loud snoring or a bad night's sleep. These are actual moments where you stop breathing entirely while asleep. When your airways collapse, the oxygen levels in your blood drop dangerously low, sending an immediate panic signal to your brain. This abrupt awakening at 3 a.m. is actually a survival mechanism. Your body wakes you up because it needs you to breathe so you don't die. This sudden drop in oxygen forces your heart to work twice as hard at its most vulnerable moment, creating immense cardiovascular stress. Imagine your heart is a water pump that suddenly runs out of fuel and needs to be forcefully restarted hundreds of times a night. This cycle of suffocation and awakening creates systemic inflammation that hardens your arteries and paves the way for chronic heart failure. The most terrifying part is that many people do not even realize they have stopped breathing. They just think they are light sleepers or that they need to use the restroom. But what is happening inside is a desperate battle for oxygen that is destroying your cardiovascular health minute by minute. You must stay alert to the signs your body leaves right upon waking, because they are the key to identifying this invisible killer. Notice if you wake up with a persistent frontal headache or if your throat feels irritated for no apparent reason first thing in the morning. Observe if, despite spending hours in bed, you feel an overwhelming daytime fatigue around lunchtime or an irritability that is not common for your temperament. Check also if you experience excessive night sweats concentrated around your neck and chest, which indicates the heavy physical effort your body made just to breathe again. These signs are the cries for help that your cardiovascular system emits while you try, without success, to truly rest. Before we get to the number one habit, the one that might be sealing the fate of your heart right now, I need you to reflect on the quality of your nighttime breathing. Have you ever felt as though you were struggling to catch your breath right after opening your eyes in the dark? Write it down in the comments if you usually wake up gasping for air, because what we are going to discuss next regarding practical solutions will be the turning point for your longevity. Apnea is not a cosmetic detail. It is a mechanical failure in your life support system that requires immediate action before the damage becomes permanent. Mr. Anthony found this out the hard way, but you have the chance to act now while there is still time to protect your heart muscle. Now that you understand the dangers surrounding your early mornings, I do not want you to panic, but rather to take total control of your cardiovascular health with practical action. Starting today, we are going to turn your bedroom into a true sanctuary of recovery for your heart and your brain. The first step is what we call the 20-minute rule to disarm the anxiety cycle of waking up. If you open your eyes at 3 a.m. and realize your sleep has completely vanished, do not stay in bed fighting your pillow. Remaining lying down, forcing yourself to sleep, only teaches your brain that the bed is a place of agitation and cortisol spikes. Get up calmly, leave the room, and go to an environment with very low, dim lighting, almost in total shadow. In this moment of pause, you must avoid any type of screen or white light that could suppress the little melatonin you have left. Instead of turning on the television or checking your phone, brew yourself a warm cup of chamomile tea, an herb so common in our homes across America and extremely powerful for calming the nervous system. Avoid coffee or any caffeinated drink, even those you think do not affect you, because they are triggers that cause your blood pressure to spike during this critical window. Sit in a comfortable armchair and let the warmth of the mug heat your hands while you disconnect from the stress of trying to sleep. The second fundamental step is controlling the luminosity because your biological clock is guided by your eyes. Use amber lights or indirect lamps to signal to your body that the rest period has not ended yet and that it is not time to trigger your stress glands. While you are in this peaceful environment, apply the 4-7-8 breathing technique, which is a true natural tranquilizer for the heart muscle. Inhale air through your nose quietly while counting to 4. Hold your breath in your lungs while counting to 7, and release the air through your mouth with a blowing sound while counting to 8. Repeat this cycle 4 consecutive times, feeling your heart rate slow down and your blood pressure find its balance again. The third step is turning your worry into concrete data for your doctor through a health log. Keep a notebook and a reliable blood pressure monitor right by your bedside to track how your body reacts during these awakenings. As soon as you get up, measure your blood pressure and write down the exact numbers along with the time you woke up abruptly. Do this for at least 2 weeks, creating a map of your cardiovascular health that will be vital during your next medical checkup. These numbers are the voice of your heart and help differentiate a simple awakening from a silent, hypertensive crisis that needs specialized treatment. Finally, adopt the habit of a light reading or soft instrumental music while you wait for sleep to return organically. Do not try to solve work problems or plan the next day during this window of time, because that only feeds the cortisol we want to lower. When you feel your eyelids grow heavy again, return to the bedroom without rushing and lie down in a position that favors free breathing, preferably on your side. These small adjustments to your nightly routine are powerful tools that protect you from acute events while the rest of the world still sleeps. Remember that Mr. Anthony only began to truly recover when he stopped fighting the clock and started taking care of the rhythm of his own heart. Take care of yourself today so that your awakening tomorrow is full of life and not medical alerts. We have reached the end of this journey through the silence of the early morning, and I hope you never look at the clock at 3 a.m. the same way again. What we saw today was not just a list of medical symptoms, but a profound warning about the fragility and resilience of your heart. Understanding that your body speaks through these awakenings is the first step to preventing exhaustion from turning into a hospital statistic. Cardiovascular health is not made only of grand decisions, but of respecting the invisible cycles that keep life pulsing while you sleep. It breaks my heart as a doctor to see patients walk into the clinic only after the damage has already become irreversible, simply due to a lack of basic information. Mr. Anthony got a second chance after that shattered cup, but not everyone is that lucky in the silence of their kitchen. Do not wait for a dramatic sign to start taking care of your melatonin, your cortisol, and your nighttime breathing. Each night of protected sleep is a direct investment in your longevity and the peace of mind of those who love you. If this content opened your eyes to something you were ignoring, I ask you to click the like button right now. This small gesture helps the video reach more Americans who are also waking up startled and looking for answers in the middle of the night. Share this link with your family, your neighborhood groups, and your church community, especially with older loved ones who have the habit of ignoring these signs. You could be the channel to save a dear heart just by sending this valuable information today. And to keep receiving guidance that protects your life and the people you love, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Every week I bring deep analyses so that you can be the master of your own cardiovascular health. Comment down below if you are going to start applying the breathing technique tonight, or if you have already measured your blood pressure this morning. I read every testimonial, and I am happy to know we are building a community of more conscious and healthy people. Sleep with the protection of the angels, take great care of your heart, and may God bless you abundantly.